Heaven has no rage like love to hatred turned, nor hell a fury like a woman scorned.
This is One Kickass Bitch, Episode 2, where we do Æthelflæd?
Æthelflæd.
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 It's not like her first name's Ethel and her last name's Flood.
No, it's one word.
One word.
Yep, Lady of the Mercians.
Okay, the Mercians that are...
It's part of Great Britain in the 8 and 900s, I guess probably after that. But it's the middle of the island.
The middle of the island?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then where she's from to the south is Wessex. And
is she close to London?
There are some sources that actually say the city of London was part of her dowry. London was actually controlled by the Vikings for a little while, and then it was a Mercian city. And I have a book and then a source online that said her father, Alfred the Great, somehow ended up in control of the city of London, and so it became part of her dowry when she was married off.
Not like if you look at a map of the United States, because we're fucking dumb Americans, we can spot where our cities are. Oh, Phoenix is there, Chicago is there, whatever. Could you spot London on an English map?
I mean, no, because I'm not from
How
Europe.
about that?
So I couldn't tell you.
I have no fucking idea where in
I think I
England
did
it is.
a BuzzFeed quiz with that where you had to try to find cities in other countries, and I didn't do very well.
No. I'm right there with you. I just kind of wanted to point that out because I'm
Yeah.
like going, we're dumb Americans.
Yeah, and I wish I had a map so I could show you guys that are listening to this via YouTube where everything is.
I think I can probably edit it in.
Yeah, maybe post-production Ken can work some magic.
Thanks. A little more work.
You're welcome.
I only run other podcasts. I do Real Ultimate. No, I have a website, realultimategeeks.com, which you can go there and find our stuff. I do another podcast called Real Booze, REEL. If they're drinking it in a movie, we're drinking it while watching the movie.
Pew, pew,
So
pew.
there's a lot of drinking in movies. But today we're doing One Kickass Bitch with Æthelflæd.
Yes.
In Wessex.
No, Mercia. She's
Mercia.
from Wessex.
Oh, okay.
Get your shit together, Ken. Okay, so last week, Ken was the one who did all of the research, was reading the story. This week, we switched off, and it's my turn. So I will be doing more of the talking, and then Ken will just kind of be interjecting and discussing.
You're going to be teaching me about Ethel.
Yes, our girl Æthelflæd. So just to start off, I'm definitely going to pronounce some stuff wrong, because their names are a little bit tricky. Sorry in advance for that. I hope it doesn't make anyone upset. There's also a lot of kind of side things that stem off of her life that we're not going to do more than touch on in here because we only have an hour, and yeah,
We can
please.
go over an hour.
Well, I mean, it could go all night. So I just want to tell everybody to just read more about her because seriously, her life is amazing. Tonight we're talking about Æthelflæd, Lady of the Mercians. That was her title. She was the eldest daughter of Alfred and Æthelflæd, who would eventually become king and queen of Wessex. From her unique upbringing to her hands-on approach to the matters of her kingdom, up to and including fighting alongside her men, it's no wonder how her tale lived on, even in a time when so fucking much history was lost due to low literacy rates, not enough monasteries for transcribing to take place, and documents lost during raids and battles and all of that. But her tale did live on, and she was actually even the inspiration for the fucking Lady of Rohan from Lord of the Rings. So I'm pretty stoked about that. After her husband's death, she became the sole ruler of Mercia, which was very unique, especially during this time period. So
How
I
did her
guess
husband die?
He had a chronic health condition, and I didn't want to jump down that rabbit hole to find out what it was. Yeah.
You just read
But
chronic
he
health
got
condition.
really sick, and so the last decade of his life, she was ruling basically without him. In name, he was the ruler, but she was the one fighting battles, strategizing, making deals,
And
collecting taxes.
And he could have died of acne.
Yeah, it could have. Yeah, really, it could have been
Got a bad
anything.
case of acne and it killed him.
So
But we don't know. He just died.
And he was much older than her, by the way. So
How much older?
I don't know.
You don't know. He just
It doesn't. He doesn't pop up until the 890s in a lot of the literature. So
Really?
yeah. But yeah, she was the sole ruler after he passed, and all of the nobles, her brother who succeeded her father as King of Wessex, everybody decided that she should stay and rule Mercia and not have not like have Wessex absorb them or have somebody male come in and take over. They're like, nope,
So there's
you have done this, you keep doing it, and now you have the title. You are
right on.
Lady of Mercia. So she's clearly very well respected, and that's awesome. So this is part one. I am not as creative as Ken. I didn't come up with cool Danzig related
That's
names
okay.
for each section. I apologize. So we're just going to call it part one. So she was born in 870 to King Alfred and Ellsworth, eventually Queen of Wessex, King and Queen of Wessex, sorry. She was the eldest child of 5. She had 2 brothers, Edward the Elder and Æthelflæd, as well as 2 sisters, Elfrith, Countess of Flanders, and Æthelgifu, depending on the source, there were a lot of different spellings of her name, Abbess of Shaftesbury.
So Flanders, good golly me. What's
Yeah,
Flanders
he's
always say?
gonna diddly doodle Æthelgifu of Shaftesbury.
Did you know there's a fucking death metal band that's all
Yeah.
the Ned Flanders death
Yeah.
metal? Yeah.
I can't remember their name. Freaking heck.
I saw them a couple weeks ago. I was on YouTube. And then I found out about another band called Max Sabbath. They dress like characters from McDonald's, like Grimace and the Hamburglar and Ronald. They do Black Sabbath songs.
Oh my god.
Max Sabbath.
When my niece was younger, she's 8 now. When she was really little, though, she didn't say Christmas properly. She called it Crimus, and so it sounded like Grimace. It was very cute. She's like, it's Crimus. I can't wait for Crimus. It was the cutest. She's the cutest, and I love her so much.
She has a sister of Shaftesbury.
Yeah.
And another one from Flanders.
Yeah. So we'll edit all that, or some of it, I don't know. Guys, sorry. We're on one today. So yes, her sister, the Abbess of Shaftesbury. During this time, most of England was ruled by Danish Vikings, but kingdoms like Wessex and Mercia weren't having that shit. They wanted their land back and for the constant invasions to stop. Something I found super interesting is that Æthelflæd grew up at her father's side, so even with 2 brothers who would obviously ascend to the throne if that were, if her father wasn't, taken out, his kingdom wasn't absorbed somewhere else, if everything was as it was then, she had 2 brothers who would take over. Not her, she was a girl, but she grew up learning with her dad. He taught her politics, military strategy, economics, how to use weapons, how to ride horses, like how, things that girls
like
didn't learn
Yeah.
in 870. And in a time when their region was incredibly unstable, we can only assume she was really fucking well educated.
Yeah.
She's also a girl, so at 16, when it came time for Alfred to strengthen his alliance with Æthelred, who ruled Mercia, their neighbors to the north, and they were allies and, wanted to keep the Danes and the Norse guys out of their land. Our girl and her dowry were used to sweeten the deal. And like we said earlier, that dowry may or may not have included the city of London. That kind of is confusing, and sources are really unclear because part of it says that Mercia already had London, and then some of it says that in a battle, Alfred kind of gained control and then with that marriage gave it back. And they were married in either 885 or 886. Think, or 886 or 887, I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought.
About when she was married.
Yeah, we were at her marriage. I got lost. I got stuck in my head trying to remember the year. I did so much reading on her that I was like, I know it's filed away in there somewhere. So, anyways, and now we get into part 2, which is, I'm sure she was very badass, like fighting at her dad's side as a teenage girl. That was probably really fucking crazy for these people to see. Like this princess.
Or learning all the fighting, the politics, the economics, how to rule. She was learning how to do that when women weren't treated like that.
Yeah. She wasn't I'm sure she learned how to embroider and shit like that, but that was not her main focus. Alfred was not fucking around with his daughter.
Yeah.
And while she was on her way to Mercia for the wedding, Æthelflæd and her party of attendants and bodyguards were attacked, probably to stop the marriage from happening, the alliance from being solidified. So game over, right? All these Vikings come in and...
gonna kick their ass and, yeah.
Wrong. They picked the wrong fucking princess because Æthelflæd fought alongside her men. And they did. They raided the dowry. They killed a lot of her attendants. And so they retreated into a nearby castle for safety, and the fight went on, but by the time it was all said and done, only her, one attendant, and one bodyguard lived.
Oh, shit.
The dowry was gone, but they killed every fucking last one of the Vikings who attacked them.
Nice.
The 16-year-old girl, they probably went into it thinking this is an easy fight, like, we'll just nip this in the bud, get it taken care of, and we'll get everything going with her for her dowry. Nope. The fuck you thought.
What is a dowry?
Dowry, it's like what they would give as like a, hey, marry my daughter. I'll give you all this silver and maybe some animals, or like,
oh, okay. Like
it's an incentive, yeah.
Incentive, gotcha. It's like, I know she's kind of ugly and we call her Snaggletooth on the side, but hey, look at all this gold you're getting.
You're going to get a fuck ton of money, so...
Gotcha.
Maybe the city of London in this case.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. So that's where I thought we could maybe discuss like what that meant for the people of Mercia, knowing coming into this, that's what she, like, that's on her way there, that happened. Yeah. And she proved how fierce she is and how, I guess, determined she was to go through with this and solidify this alliance and
protect their lands.
Yeah, she didn't turn back and go home because she's a teenage girl and just faced death literally and fought and went through with it.
Or they don't know.
There's not like
really
a
matter.
number
They
of the
were
attackers.
Vikings.
Yeah, it's a Viking army though, attacked them, and
she still made it.
Yeah,
so the people are going to be
she just straight slaughtered. And all of the accounts of it say she fought at the side of her bodyguards.
Well,
she didn't run away and hide. She fought. And she tried to protect her attendants. She tried to protect her bodyguards. Unfortunately, not a lot of people lived, but she did. And
yeah,
how do you think that made the people of Mercia feel seeing her coming in? Maybe even her new husband, like, was he like, damn.
Yeah.
Damn, Æthelflæd.
Well, now they're not going to mess with her because you got to be thinking, okay, well, the Vikings are now trying to do this. If they come in and try messing with us, with Mercia or with Wessex, who are now pretty much together.
Because Wessex,
because there's a marriage.
As far as I mean, Wessex was like the main deal. They would get, in Mercia, they would get Alfred's permission before doing things. Like they would, run things by him, make sure it was cool with him.
Because marriage are going to be basically merging the two lands together.
They have a for sure alliance now, and
the Vikings are going to be like, fuck.
And this girl whooped our asses.
We can't break them up. Now they're like, shit, now they're definitely together. We've been having problems with them individually.
And because at one point, Mercia was more Viking controlled, and their leader, while not a Viking, I think it was like I think Northumbria controlled them, or like the city was Northumbria, but I think that was definitely controlled by Vikings, and they kind of, Mercia was their thing, and it was just like a puppet Mercian leader. They didn't actually have any control, and that changed.
The Vikings didn't have control, or Mercia itself?
Mercia itself didn't.
Okay.
And then
the Vikings were kind of running the show.
They were the ones who really ran it. And then Æthelred comes in, who is the one Æthelflæd marries. Yeah. There's a lot of Ethels.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah. And it's like a nursing home. A lot of Ethels.
A lot of Ethels. Well, it's that AE that are together, like Aphex Twin. Mm-hmm. This is the other twin, though. You ever listen to Aphex Twin?
A little bit.
They're weird.
Yeah.
It's good stuff, but it's weird.
It's weird. So yeah, I thought that was pretty fucking sweet.
Cool.
We are on part 3. Alright, so Æthelflæd and Æthelred ruled successfully together for about 25 years. During this time, Æthelflæd helped move her siblings and their only child, Ælfwine, into positions of power, we assume probably to carry on the family legacy and continue with her father Alfred's dream of a stronger, more unified kingdom. And a side note, her daughter Alfwin, who was born in 888, so a couple years after they were married, she was brought up much the same way her mom was. The only big difference being that she was never married. She wasn't married off like to strengthen alliances. She wasn't married, period. I don't know if her mom did this strategically or if it was more because with everything else, a marriage just wasn't a priority. Like they were, fortifying towns, rebuilding.
Why buy the cow when the milk's free?
They had a lot going on, and so was marrying her off not a priority. And also they were, I guess, were the kind of bigger players with everything, so they didn't need to like marry her off for political power. And
because she got married to the other guys because they were
to strengthen the alliance.
Right. But now there's no alliance for them to strengthen.
Yeah, and I mean marriages happened for other reasons aside from big political alliances.
Like people fell in love?
Yeah, weird, right?
Who thinks of that?
Fuck, that's
feelings,
stupid.
Emotions.
That's just dumb.
Duh.
Or did she want to keep her daughter in power so that maybe a female would ascend to the throne after she died?
They only had one kid?
Yeah, one kid, a daughter. There's one thing I saw, she said something about women of nobility shouldn't have to endure that much pain for like kind of silly pleasure. And also she was a warrior queen. I'm sure they didn't want her like riding into battle with what could possibly be the heir to the throne of Mercia. So I'm sure she wasn't allowed to sword fight any Vikings
right.
for 9 months.
Kick the kid out halfway in the middle of the battle, hand it a short sword, and have her start fighting with her. You can't do that.
Yeah. So that was probably a big inconvenience for her. I'm sure that was a big factor in why she didn't have any more children. And maybe, like we said earlier, because her husband was a lot older than her, she just wasn't down with it. Like, politically, they were a good match. Maybe they were great friends, but there was just pregnancy would have been an inconvenience for her. So that makes sense. But yeah, with her daughter not marrying, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And also her brother Edward sent his son Æthelstan to be raised in her court with her daughter to learn under her guidance. So that speaks huge about her.
She was better at doing it than he was. Either that or he just didn't want to deal with the kids.
He didn't want to deal with it. Maybe there was nobody in his court that he had that much faith in. He sent his son. So she was raised with her cousin, and they grew up learning how to be awesome rulers, and that's really cool. Her daughter never married. So in 889, a year after their only child was born, their new Mercian mint in Gloucester, I don't know if I'm saying that right, was turning out currency, and they were building a castle outside of the city. Them building that one outside of the city in more of an unguarded area was kind of seen as a bold move, even though it was a safer region. So she was like, try me, ho. I really like that. I have a little excerpt from, I know people don't like Wikipedia as a source, but around that same time they were fortifying a lot of the towns under their control, and this one specifically, Worcester, I don't know if I said that one right, this is how they kind of set up that whole deal. It says, at the end of the 9th century, Æthelred and Æthelflæd fortified Worcester with the permission of King Alfred and at the request of Bishop Werfurth, described in the charter as their friend. They granted the Church of Worcester half a share in the rights of lordship over the city, covering land rents and the proceeds of justice, and in return the cathedral community agreed to, in perpetuity, to dedicate a psalm to them 3 times a day and a mass and 30 psalms every Saturday. As the rights of lordship had previously belonged fully to the church, this represented the beginning of a transfer from episcopal to secular control of the city. So they were really good deal makers. That was one of the only deals where they actually worked directly with King Alfred. A lot of times it was kind of, Alfred was like, do this at your discretion, but like...
let them kind of run the deal.
Yeah, but I think that's the only one where he directly had a hand in it. Part 4. In the early 900s, her husband's health had begun seriously declining, leaving Æthelflæd to unofficially rule on her own. So before, where she was, sharing responsibility and just taking on extra as she needed to, now it was all on her. So in everything but title, she was running shit. Also, around this time, she won one of her most famous battles in the city of Chester. As a port city, it was very fucking valuable, both commercially and strategically. So the Norse taking control would have been an absolutely crushing blow. Of course, she had a plan to secure the city that her and her husband had worked to fortify. So she left part of her army hidden in.
They own the city.
Yeah.
The Vikings are coming to fucking take
they're
the city.
So there were Vikings that were kicked out of Ireland, and they wanted to settle there, and there had been kind of back and forth about that, and I believe they were settled somewhere outside of the city. They were talking about rising up and just taking Chester, which would give them control of the port.
Right.
That would have crippled.
Which will fuck up your trade
Yeah.
and all that other shit. But her and her husband had a plan. Like, they knew.
Well, no, her husband's down. He's, sick by now. So
Right.
This is all her. So she comes up with this plan. She left part of her army hidden inside of the city walls of Chester, and then stationed the rest of the soldiers outside of the city with her, where they briefly engaged them and retreated into the gates, which were conveniently left open for the Norse to get in. Because why would you retreat and leave the gates open? That's just silly.
And they chase
Like,
them.
how do you fall for that? But they did. It's like a Wile E. Coyote cartoon.
Happens all the fucking time.
I hate when I fall for that.
Mongols did the same fucking thing.
So the Norse settlers followed him in. The gates were closed, they trapped them all, and the army hiding inside, along with Æthelflæd, and even allegedly some of the townspeople just fucking crushed them. They just slaughtered the shit out of them, obviously ending their uprising.
Yeah.
Because they're all dead. You can't, unless they're like rising up from the grave.
So they've got like an army of fucking Vikings, and they see like, 100 people out
Yeah,
there
just
fight.
A few guys, and then
And they're like, well, fuck, they run into the city. They're like, well, there's only a few of them. We'll just chase them in there and kill them. And they get in there, and that's where the 500 guys are waiting
that's
for
where
them.
the rest of the army is.
Nice.
So and that's what she was known for, was strategy. She was always kind of 2 steps ahead of everyone.
Strategery?
Yeah, strategy.
Strategery?
Strategery? We can use that word. We can use it. This isn't Scrabble. You can say whatever the fuck you want, Ken.
It's from a fucking movie. I can't remember what movie it was from. Hey, it's great strategery you got there.
Alright, we're part 5. So we're kind of the end of everything now. In 9/11, after her husband's death in 9/11, she's given the title officially of Lady of the Mercians. And even though she'd been in control for the last decade, more or less, her being the official ruler of the realm it was unusual, because before that, at least there was the illusion of a male ruler. There was a figurehead. They had this lord to look up to.
So there's a king and a queen, and the king runs everything, and the queen's just kind of there.
Yeah, and they could at least hold on to that illusion, but now that was not the case. And I feel like in Mercia, they probably it was an exceptional situation. For them, they knew she was the one running the show.
She was a kick-ass
bitch.
Anyway,
yeah, exactly. One kick-ass bitch.
There you go.
Anywhere else, it wouldn't have happened that way. That would have been so, like, how does that happen? And probably from the outside looking in, before they didn't know that she was running the show, I'm sure they didn't give away their strategy to everyone and tell them that, like, this lady is the one doing everything. But it's just crazy to me. It's awesome that they believed in her. They didn't try to overthrow her. They didn't try to put someone else in power.
Or have somebody else marry her.
Or have somebody else marry her.
Remember when Igor died,
somebody else came
like,
in
hey,
and
you should marry me. You should marry me.
Hey girl, what up? Like, nobody was slipping into her carrier pigeon's nest with their proposals and, like, dick sketches.
Yeah. Just the head back then for sketches.
Sorry.
I'm this big.
Yeah. Hey, yo, what
awesome.
up, Ethel? This is what I got. That didn't happen. She didn't remarry. She didn't have more children. She just ruled on her own as Lady of the Mercians. She built a lot of new forts to keep out the Danes and the Norse, and then to protect and the Welsh, actually.
You do whatever you can to keep Dane Cook out.
Yeah, I mean...
No cooking in here, Dane.
Yeah, get out of here with your recycled jokes and your creepy sexual misconduct. We don't like you. Bad. Get out. I don't like Dane Cook.
Neither do I. I can't stand the fucker.
Ugh. He's recycled the same jokes since, like, he broke, and he's a creep. So she built many new forts to keep out the Danes, the Cooks, the Dane Cooks, the Welsh, the Norse, and to protect their goods from invading armies. Bridgenorth was established in 912, Stafford and Tamworth in 913, Eddisbury and Warwick in 914, Cherbury and Runcorn in 915. I don't think I said any of those names right. Probably not.
And we can't find a single one of them on a map.
I mean...
Or you could. You did the research.
Yeah, I have maps on my phone. I just didn't have any to give you for this. I can pull one up and show you where they are. But that does no good to the people listening.
Right.
I can send them to you.
They're in England. And England's about the size of Texas, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I will send Ken the maps after we're done.
I'll splice it in.
Then you'll have maps to find out where everywhere like Shaftesbury and Bridgenorth are.
Shaftesbury.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
You said it, not me.
Went to Shaftesbury for some Wessex. Anyways, her military campaigns, both for Mercia and alongside her brother Edward, who now ruled Wessex after the death of Alfred, were incredibly successful. She, just before she died, actually, she defeated a bunch of Norse Vikings, and they were in talks to kind of like submit.
We'll leave you guys alone. Stop beating us up.
But unfortunately, she passed. They don't know if it was from like infection from a wound suffered in battle, or maybe the plague or malaria. It just lists all of the possible causes. There's no one for sure cause.
Just that she died.
Yeah, in 918.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So she lived a relatively long life, I think, for that time period, especially for a warrior queen.
Yeah.
But her legacy obviously carried on. Æthelflæd, you are one kick-ass bitch. Pew, pew, pew. Pew, 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 pew.
That was pretty cool. So she just fucking fucked up Vikings.
Yeah. She stood her ground. She maintained her lands. They didn't lose their lands to these Vikings or the Welsh or anybody else.
Fucking Welsh.